Hi guys, it's me again, Jermaine, Prince Crew. Today we're going to be talking about the Brexit, and I'm here with
Aaron,
AJ Raw.
And Nate.
So guys, do you guys know much about what's going on in Brexit?
I understand that the country did vote to leave, and I understand that there is still discussions on how and when the UK will leave the European Union.
I definitely didn't vote to leave. I felt like it was not beneficial for the youth and the future of the country, but that's just my opinion.
I didn't vote either way because I'm a bit of a skeptic. I saw a lot of campaigning. I saw more campaigning for leaving than for remaining, but I don't really get involved too much in that stuff. But looking at what's been going on for like the past couple of years, it looks like things aren't going to plan at all. If there is a plan.
So tell me, why exactly did you vote to leave?
I voted to leave because I feel that the UK used to be a country where they had control over their borders, they had control over their economy, and they had control on how they would integrate with other European countries. I feel that now the UK doesn't have that ability to control how its borders are done. You look at the migrant crisis, it doesn't have control of its economy anymore. You look at the lack of companies that list on London Stock Exchange. So I feel if you vote to leave, you have more sovereignty, you have more control, you're able to choose your own destiny.
You made some very interesting points there. And why did you vote to stay?
Well, to my understanding, the country was based on being diverse, being open to all religions, all races, and things of that nature. That's constantly things that I still saw, especially when I was growing up, things like that. Most of my friends are from different backgrounds, not everybody's of the same background. So, in my understanding, when they talk about things like immigration and things like, foreigners and outsiders, I was always to the understanding that that was embraced by the country. Like that was something that was, not necessarily accepted, but it was a thing that was promoted as the most diverse country, the most, open country, things of that nature. So when I hear them speaking on things like, oh, these immigrants are coming in to take our quote-unquote jobs, especially when I speak to like my elders and my parents and things like that, I always felt like that was kind of from a negative standpoint, because most of the jobs that are quote-unquote being taken are being taken by people that don't want, like the people that don't mind doing them. Our background, we always felt like we had a choice and things like that, and most people choose not to do these same jobs that people are complaining are being taken. So part of why I voted to stay was, at the end of the day, can't control everything, in my opinion. Also, it would just be positive for the youth to grow up in and embracing culture. Once you leave something like that, I feel like you cause a divide, you cause a split, and I just don't think that would be something positive for people like my brother, who's a generation before me, to grow up in. So that's why I voted to stay.
Interesting points. So, I'm going to ask you this, Nathan. So, what do you think, what are your personal views on the government? Like, do you think the government is clear about what they're doing, like, as a nation? Do you think a lot of people are clear on what is actually going on in Britain?
I don't think most normal people don't have a clue what's going on. People are, like, their reasons for voting was pretty divided. Like, people who voted for leave, if you were to ask all of those their reasons for leaving, you probably get a bunch of different reasons. So, but all that matters is the vote. It doesn't matter your reason for it. You could have voted because you like red cars. It doesn't matter. But yeah, the government, to us, it seems like they have no clue what they're doing. But at the same time, like you've got the government, you've got the MPs and stuff. There's a deal. They're trying to figure out, is this a good deal? Is it a bad deal? Do we want no deal? Like, it seems like they can't come to an agreement, which is why we've had all these extensions and stuff like that, and that makes us, the normal people, feel like they don't know what's going on, because as far as the country is concerned, we should have left on the 29th of March, but now it's been extended to the 31st of October, and if you was to ask most leavers why, once again you'd probably get a bunch of different reasons why. And I know a lot of people that either voted leave or that are like, more conservative people that are saying that they're turning their back on the conservative government because they haven't delivered, the will of the people. And that's kind of what interests me the most, like people's reasons and attitudes and stuff like that. And it's been a really confusing last 2 years. And regardless of whether you voted leave or stay, like a lot of people are now looking at the government like what's going on? Like, come on, like you're supposed to be the smartest people. That we put you in charge. We've given you the vote. We vote for you, and you're not doing what we think you should be doing. Now, we don't know exactly what's going on in there, but we know that they can't come to an agreement. They can't come to agreement with themselves, because every time she puts a deal on the table, they say no. So they've obviously got some power to, they've literally stopped Brexit. Do you know what I mean? And she goes to Europe and says, well, this is what we've got. And they're like, yeah, no, go back and come back with something better. So it's like there's three different groups. There's the government, like Theresa May, and there's the MPs, everyone who's not interested in what's going on, the deals. And then there's the EU, who are like, all right, you can leave, but like I said earlier, like you can't have any of our pizza anymore. Like, we're not giving you any pizza. If you want some, you're gonna have to give us something. And I don't think we're willing to give anything up.
It's interesting. I like your analogy about how basically with the pizza, basically pizza was bought by the EU, and obviously how England, like, although they want to say they're out, but they still want part of that pizza, isn't it? Yeah. Which is, it kind of shows they're a bit greedy, and that there's a bit of a contradiction, like, because we're planning to leave, but we still want stuff from the EU, which is it does make you question if our country as a nation is actually stable to be standing by themselves, which is, when you really think about Brexit, in a sense, it can be concerning. I mean, I know people that have left, that voted to leave for different reasons, for religious reasons, for probably racial reasons, because when I was watching the news, a lot of people were saying immigration. I'm like, is that it? And probably people left for probably economic reasons. There was so my mum, she used to do workshops for little kids, and one of the parents, she was German. She actually moved back to Germany with her family with regards to the Brexit, because obviously they didn't know what was gonna happen, So obviously, in terms of this Brexit, people's lives have changed in somewhat, and some people's lives haven't changed as much. We're just kind of sitting here thinking like, what's going on, So it's a bit of a, it's a bit of a, like, I think people are pretty clueless about what's going on. That's the thing, guys, I've got another question for you. As a government, do you think that there is a lot of mess that has been shoved like under the carpet instead of it being actually dealt with?
Yes, I think there has been quite a lot of mess, but I think it's mostly to do with the economic situation. I feel that a lot of those that are leaders within the government and leaders within business and industry that voted to leave, for example, James Dyson, or the UK's richest man, Jim Radcliffe, the reason why they voted to leave was purely economical. So with them, they're wanting to see what they can get from government for their businesses before they leave. I feel that the average person in the UK doesn't know what's going on. You're right, Nathan, they don't know what's going on. But at the same time, they need to ask questions of those that are in power. And those that are in power today, that run the UK government, the Tories and the DUP, they are the people that need to answer for why Brexit hasn't been realised, why the Leave campaign hasn't been realised, why we haven't left the European Union legally, economically or physically. That needs to be defined. They need to define what's going to happen to the Northern Ireland backstop. They need to define what's going to happen to Scotland and the way that the UK deals with oil in that industry and the way it deals with agriculture and subsidies. That needs to be answered and explained properly. The reason why we haven't left the UK and how people envision it is simply because Theresa May in her government has been unable to get the agreements with the European Union's biggest economies, Germany, France, Spain, Italy. These are the people that control and run the European Union. The UK's inability to get good trade deals with them is the main reason why the UK has been unable to leave the European Union. Currently, I feel that getting the right amount for subsidies that you spend on farmers that produce milk, on how much they spend on beef, and where you're going to get British beef from, where you're going to get milk from, where you're going to get other poultry and other cattle from, where you're going to buy and sell this hasn't been arranged. But this is a major part of the economy. Manufacturing jobs, tech jobs, where you're going to attract talent from. These are the key things that the government has to agree with the European big nations on what they're going to do. And then how are you going to manage immigration? How are you going to manage people coming to stay in the UK? Because as I understand it, the UK government, towards the beginning of March and throughout the whole Brexit period up till the change of the date, they were trying to get European Union people to register, to pay and register with the UK government. I have to register before I can access everything, and I know what happens to me when the country leaves the European Union. So I just feel the government's not been able to get their point across on a deal scenario, on a no deal scenario, and on a scenario where people understand what's happening with the key things that affect them, like immigration and the economy.
I felt that you had some really, really good, powerful points there. Oh, H. AJ Ra, what have you got to say?
I totally agree with him. To me, the whole Brexit thing in general just doesn't make any sense. To me, there's absolutely no benefit from leaving the EU. Do you understand what I mean? Because, like I said, based on the fact that I was growing up understanding that this country was accepting of other cultures, it let me know that this country wasn't necessarily independent. In the same breath, I always heard things like, go back to your own country, things like, you don't belong here, etc., etc. So if we look at the current state of the government, the current state of the head of the government in Theresa May, I can understand that she kind of just says a lot, but nothing's actually being taken care of. Do you understand what I mean? There's been no solution. There's been no definitive reason as to what leaving would benefit the country, would benefit us, would benefit anything. It's kind of just it's like a shiny, glossy mess. There's no actual reason, in my opinion, as to what the positives are in if the country was to leave. Do you understand what I mean? In my opinion, it just sounds like it would be a negative thing. There wouldn't be no way for her to dress it up or to put it, even if it was to bring figures into it. You could say 300, 400 million that we would get. How long is that going to stretch out? How long is that going to last for? What are we going to use that money for? Where is that going to go? What about the NHS situation? What about them? What about our daily essentials and things like that? I mean, how many people get up and just naturally go and buy milk, things like that, or naturally go and buy bread? If you leave and you're not getting it from British soil and you've been importing it, that's going to affect businesses. Now they got to put the prices up. Now, in my understanding, she's in a very comfortable tax bracket. People around her, people speaking on it, people being for leaving are in a comfortable tax bracket. It's people on the other side that aren't as comfortable as they are. Now, if you leave, that's going to make other people that run businesses on UK soil make things that weren't necessarily expensive unnecessarily expensive just to keep up. Once you do that, now your daily essentials are affected. Now things that you would normally not even think about to go and get are affected. Now you're going to think twice. That's going to cause doubt. You do that to the people, now they're going to look at you like, well, what was the point of this? Do you understand what I mean? There's already, in my opinion, a level of uncertainty and lack of trust from the government. Once this thing goes through, or if it does go through, whatnot, because man over here just said that the date's been extended, it's going to cause so many things to change. Things that we're used to doing, routines that we're used to implementing in our daily lives have to be switched around just because people that don't live like we do felt like it would be a good idea. And in my mind, that's the point. They're speaking from a perspective that doesn't relate to the rest of the people that live in the countries. As a government, in my opinion, you're supposed to take into consideration your people. I don't feel like this Brexit deal is taking into leaving is taking into consideration how it would affect the people of the country. Do you understand what I mean? In terms of how it can help. In my mind, a government is supposed to sit down and make decisions on how to make the country advance or move forward, or to better the country in particular manners and particular ways. If you're part of a union and you one day decide to get up and go, well, I don't want to be part of the union anymore, but I want to have what the union has, I want to kind of still be in, that doesn't make any sense. That literally doesn't add up. That literally isn't beneficial in any way. So in my mind, like, there should be other things that they should be sitting down trying to come to an agreement on, and they're not doing that. They're wasting time trying to make it seem as if the deal is a good thing, when in my opinion it's not. So that's what I have to say about it. Like, I just feel like there should be other things that they should be putting their focus and energy in that need attention, and they're not doing that. So that's what I have to say about it. That's my viewpoint on it. I wish that they would somehow finalize this and get back to focusing on the actual country and what they need, what the people need. You understand what I mean? So that's my viewpoint on it. That's why I think that's why I was against leaving in the first place. Because I just didn't see any positives or any beneficial, aspirations from it in any sense.
You made some pretty good points there. I think as a country, do you think if we are to leave, do you think we should start making small changes now, so when it actually comes to the time that we fully leave, we've kind of become more independent and more stable, so that people in this nation actually are kind of in a place where there's a bit more certainty. So do you think we should start making small changes now? Like, what do you think, Nathan?
I don't know if that's possible, because people don't know what's going on. How do you adjust? Usually people are reactionary, so they react to things. So I don't know, let's say the price of milk goes up to £5. At first we're going to be like, how are we going to afford milk? Eventually we'll figure out that we have to make some sacrifices or whatever. You know what I mean? That's probably how it's going to go. I think the government know that. I don't think they're saying that. Well, actually, I'm sure plenty of people have said that things are going to get worse before they get better.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I mean, that's the soundbite, innit? So, and I think a lot of people voted out of pride, innit? Like their country back and sovereignty and all these things. So you know what I mean? Like, whether you agree with it or not, if that's their reason, that's their reason. So they're thinking that, yeah, all right, things are going to be worse before they get better, but they will get better. So yeah, I'm down for this. I think the government is in a, what's the phrase, between a rock and a hard place, because I don't think they want to leave, otherwise we'd have left already. The MPs and everything, like, they would have just said no deal, and then we would have been out, and that was it. Then we would have just figured it out. Like we would have just adjusted. We would have done that already. They're trying to get these deals because they know that we need them. We can't leave without a deal or whatever. They know that, you know, the whole Northern Ireland and Ireland, the border thing, they know that that's a tricky situation, especially with the IRA and that, like, planting bombs again, like, letting them know like, yeah, we ain't forgotten. And I think that's where most of the message is the disconnect between the government, the MPs and the people, because the government are trying to figure it out. The MPs are saying, no, that's not, we don't want that. Europe's saying, we don't really care, we just want you to hurry up and make a decision. And the people just want to leave. Well, like the majority of the people that voted to leave, like, so they've got to figure out, like, not everyone is going to be happy, clearly.
Can't please everyone.
Yeah, so do we just, like, but they figured out enough to say that we can't have no deal. Like, so, like, that's off the table. I think that's off the table now officially. Yeah, I think that got voted into the law. I think the Queen actually signed the thing to say that there's no deal is officially off the table, so we have to have a deal. I think that's why there's an extension. But yeah, like people, like before, people, I would hear people say stuff like, I can't wait to leave and blah blah blah, and they were quite jubilant about it. They had never mentioned anything about the economy or immigration, anything. They just wanted to leave for whatever their reasons are. Now you don't really hear much about people celebrating and stuff like that. Now a lot of leavers are mad because they wanted to leave. Some people wanted no deal because they don't care, like, cut off my nose, I don't care, like, you know what I mean, I can get surgery. But now we're just gonna have to wait until what, the 31st of October. I don't know what they plan on doing between now and then that they haven't already tried, just putting different deals. But now they got the, what was it, the cross party thing, like with Jeremy Corbyn and thing, they can start working together now.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe something will come out of that. Obviously it's way too late. You know what I mean, they had 2 years to join up forces. That's probably what should have happened at the start. Once we decided to leave, every single thing should have come together and said, all right, yeah, the government can't do it all by themselves, like everyone has to chip in and try and make it work. Like, so now I think maybe that's what's going to happen now. Whether it will work or not remains to be seen. But I'm pretty sure a lot of European nationals that work here, I don't know, like people don't really ask them how they feel. And like they're adding to it, do you know what I mean? Like what's going to happen to them? Like my son's mother is European. And like she was panicking, she was like crying and everything, and I had to tell her, oh no, it's gonna be alright. I didn't know. Do you know what I mean? Like this is that's the reality, is that people are like, like we're human, innit? And we just want to get on with life, and all this stuff is a bit much for us. So that's why we elect these people to deal with it on our behalf, and it's not sending a good message to the people, do you know what I mean? Whichever way you voted.
You made an important point there about how your son's mother was really like, you know, she was crying and she was panicking about this. So do you think, as a nation, because God knows there's like millions of people in this nation, and because of the situation going on, do you think this is affecting a lot of families and a lot of individuals mentally?
Yeah, definitely, and emotionally, because on both sides, like, do you know what I mean? Because people that voted leave, they're like, what's going on? Like, it's affecting them mentally, like, because this is something they wanted. They feel like the government is betraying them, and that people have spoken, so it should be delivered, and it's not being happened. So they're like, this isn't democracy, like, what's going on? So they've been doing like their protests and stuff like that. And then people that remained are like, people that remained that are from like other countries, well, they didn't vote, they didn't get a chance to vote, but people from like Europe and stuff like that, I work with a lot of them, and yeah, a lot of them were like upset because they felt like they were betrayed. Like they've come here to work and add to the economy and everything, and people that they work with have voted to leave, and because you were hearing stuff like immigration a lot, they feel like it was about them. Like you voted to leave even though you work with me, and you know that it could mean that I have to leave the country, for example. Like that's extreme, obviously that's not the case, but so yeah, there's been it's affected a lot of people, like mentally and emotionally. But like I said, we'll find out whether it affects us economically and all the other stuff, like come October or November.
As young black men, like obviously when we voted to leave, like when you were walking in the streets of London, like how did you guys feel? Did you feel like comfortable, safe? Did you feel, you know, alright to walk down the street safely?
I did, but that's because I had a confidence when I voted to leave. I had a confidence in the government to enact what we had all voted for. I had a confidence that we would leave the European Union. But I think we can't forget that the UK was never fully part of the European Union. It controls its own currency. So by that definition, the UK government has a closer relationship with the Bank of England than it does those that run the parliaments in Europe. We can't forget that. We also can't forget the fact that as black people, there's a lot we can do within our own communities. And Brexit is more of a larger macroeconomic event. It's something that's going to affect the whole country, not just our community. But what we need to do is make our community stronger so that we can withstand and take advantage of the opportunities that Brexit provides. Because what you have to remember is that those that are wealthy in society, whether Brexit happens or not, they will not just be fine, they will actually thrive in that environment. When there's a down market or when there's a rising market, they will always make money. They will always make success. So for us, we need to think, how can we make success if Brexit means the economy does well? How can we take advantage of that? And when the economy doesn't do so well, how can we take advantage of the pound falling in value? Because ultimately that's what we're all here for, the value of the pound. If the value of the pound drops significantly from where it is now, a lot of people will leave the country because they will seek other jobs elsewhere, maybe in the US, maybe somewhere in Europe, ironically. I think voting to leave, I believe, would ultimately allow the UK government to reset itself before 2002. Because people have to remember, this country has had over 30 years of solid economic growth, led by a lot of borrowing from the UK government and led by debt and credits to the balance sheet of the Bank of England, its ability to print money and the ability of them to raise and lower interest rates. If you were to join the European Union fully, you don't have control over the economy completely. I do believe when it comes to immigration, the UK will always be able to attract the smartest people to go to its universities, the smartest people to work for its top firms. What the UK will have to work on post-Brexit is its ability to give them visas, its ability to give them the ability to stay in the country, indefinite leave to remain. Will that be there? How long does someone from the EU now have to stay in the UK before they can get the right to work? That's what needs to be clear for people that live here. Like your partner, for example. They need clarity on what happens to them in the jobs that they do. But what you have to also take note of is that the UK, in a leave no deal scenario, will become more like Australia and Japan, where they have an extremely restrictive immigration policy. What would most likely happen in that event is they will make it extremely difficult for people from the EU to come to the UK unless they have the skills that the NHS or big business is looking for. So if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, if you're somebody that has a particular trade or skill in the manufacturing industry, these are the types of people that will always be needed and welcome to the UK. But if you have a skill set that's less in demand, you're someone who would have to worry about your future in a no-deal scenario come the end of October, as you say. So I believe ultimately with Brexit, it was always going to happen. There was always going to be a decision because David Cameron left office and he just decided, yeah, I'm going to allow people now to vote on whether you leave or stay. He said, I made a promise to the British people that we should vote to leave or stay. Right, so he was always going to run. There was always going to be a general election in 2022. So despite what you said about Jeremy Corbyn and all of the parties coming to work together, don't forget the politicians. Don't forget that, the politicians. So they're coming together to see what they can get before the election in 2022. Don't forget that. They're seeing who they can convert onto their side come voting time that time. So yeah, back to your main question, Jermaine, about the black community as black men. We need to focus on what we can do to enlift and benefit ourselves first and foremost before we can think about anybody else. And that, I believe, in a no-deal scenario, I believe with the pound low, I think we should be focusing on export-driven businesses where we can take advantage of the fall in the value of the pound and make money from that. We should focus on businesses where we can sell our expertise across the pond to America, to China, to Africa. These are the types of markets we need to be thinking about what we can do deals in. You know, that's my viewpoint.
I'm just taking this in. I'm processing this because I'm actually thinking about how serious this is, you know, because this affects all of our futures, not just black people, the Asian community, European community, everyone. This affects everyone, and this is something where we have to come together. This is something where we have to put discrimination aside, racism aside, sexism aside, all of that rubbish aside. We have to expand our way of thinking in terms of how we're going to survive, because my question is, does the government really care about us? That's my question. I want to hear all of you guys, what you all have to say about this.
I was going to say, what did you just say? You just said that, like, I think the government, like, people are stupid, and the government know that. But what can they do? They can't really, their hands are tied. Like, they got to do what people want at the end of the day. So they don't care about people. All they care about is vote. Voting is just their currency. So they can say whatever they want. Vote, because if everyone votes for us, we'll give you apples. If you like apples, you're going to vote for them. They don't care that you want apples. They don't have to give it to you. They just want to get in power. Like you said about, like them, the governments joining together. They're just doing it for the, they don't really care about the people. They only care about the people because the people is who put them in power. Like, we're just currency to them. We're just do you know what I mean? Like, so this is the first time I've ever seen the government scramble around like this, where it was like, oh shit, like, they haven't got a clue either. Like they've noticed something that we haven't noticed, like, which is that this doesn't seem like such a good idea, but we got to do it anyway, sort of thing. But yeah, I don't think they, not to sound too conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but yeah, I just think we're just currency to them. They need us to vote for them to be in power, so they'll say and do whatever they need to say and do to get into power. Like James Cameron. The hell is James Cameron? David Cameron. James Cameron. Great director.
That's a director.
Did you watch that? Sorry to go off topic. Did you watch the? He made the Moses film, and he said he never wanted a Muslim to be Moses because no one wanted to watch a film with Muhammad so and so from blah blah blah. Anyway, that's the point. But David Cameron, he was like, if you vote for us, then we'll have a referendum. And to a lot of people, because people are stupid, that sounds like, we can get rid of all the Muslims and all the blah 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 blah. And here we are today. So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if they really care. I don't think they do.
So what you gotta say?
James Cameron. Mid-Blade Runner.
I could be completely honest, right? Yeah? Alright.
Shoot.
Alright. I'm gonna just be honest, they don't care. And to be honest, I felt like the nail in the coffin to me was Grenfell. A situation happened right under their nose, literally in their community, and it took them nearly 2 years to fix it. Do you understand what I'm saying? I lived in Notting Hill Gate for a time being. When that situation went down, it was the people that came together to try and fix it. The only MPs that came forward weren't named Theresa May. That came to try and help out the community wasn't the people that are for leaving. if that makes sense. That made me kind of look at them with a side eye. If a major situation like that happens, and that's literally about people, that's literally about families, that's literally about numbers, and that situation takes nearly 2 years to get handled, we still don't know the company that sorted that cladding out. Like, that hasn't been addressed in terms of who was responsible for making such a blunder. That's kind of the situation that the MPs should be focusing on, because that involved disorganized families, that involved homelessness, that involved death, that involved things of that nature. That's literally to do with people. Am I making sense? In my mind, it's like that kind of just made me set up a little bit. And now here we are, and you're still arguing about whether we should have a deal or not a deal, whether we should have left or not left, whether we should come together or not. And I kind of piggybacks off of my man's point, which is we should be trying to strengthen our community as black males, as black people. I guarantee you, if we had the option to fix a problem like Grenfell, we would have fixed it. We did try and fix it, but that was the people that did that, not the government. Does that make sense? It was the people that donated, not the government. You understand what I mean? Things like that should be something that should allow us to set up and understand that there's things that need to be sorted within our community. Whether they help us or not, we should be figuring out ways to try and kind of help ourselves. Because ultimately, that situation let me know that if something can happen right under them within a community like that, and it took them too long to respond to fix it, that's a problem. Does that make sense? That's a problem. So in my mind, it's like there's things that need to be sorted within our community with people that are associated and around our community, and ultimately that needs to be addressed more than, you know, an overall consensus, an overall problem, because ultimately we all we have, to my understanding, from my viewpoint, from my perspective. So to answer your question, the government doesn't care. They've shown that they don't care. They can say that they do. They can bring out fancy laws and whatnot. They can bring up numbers and say that they've donated, but ultimately you can physically see, and you're physically aware, and you can see with your own two, you can feel it, that they don't. But they're going to sit in Parliament, they're going to get on TV and say whatever they need to say to grip your attention, to get your vote, right? Which is part of their currency. So, you know, there's other things that we need to be focusing on collectively as a whole. We need to be promoting more of a unified stance and front first, and then figuring out how we can add to the country later. So that's what I believe, that's what I think, and a lot more people need to be speaking on and having discussions like this to try and affect change. Because ultimately we've trusted people, right, that called them, that went through the proper channels and decided to grow up and be MPs, and they've just continuously let us down time and time again. I personally don't feel like we should continue to allow people to decide what happens to us if it's not us. So that's my own personal.
Yeah. You want to say another thing? Quickly before this.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, no, actually, go on.
Yeah, okay, say what you can say.
I believe the government do care about people. It's just not normal, everyday people. The people they care about are those that donate to their parties when it comes to election time. They care about those that look after their constituency before they became into government. And they care about those that will help them after they have left government. Just look at what David Cameron and Nick Clegg and George Osborne. Yes, George Osborne. Look at what they're doing now. They're working for big corporations and they're making millions of pounds doing so. People have to look and think, if you're going to vote someone into power, you're going to vote your local MP, make them accountable for what happens to your community. Ask your MPs, what are you doing for my community? What are you doing for the people that live in Newham? What are you doing for the people that live in other parts of the UK, other parts of London? That's the question. As the black community, we need to be asking our local MPs where we live, how can they benefit and lift us up? Things would have been different, I feel, for the black community if Chuka Umunna had taken leadership of the Labour Party instead of Jeremy Corbyn. But he didn't. He backed down because I don't think he had the stomach for the fight, because he could see what was coming on the horizon with regards to Brexit. So back to your statement, they believe and they care about people that are invested in their interests, people that will help them, people that will enable them to either stay in power or enrich themselves after or during their time in government. Have you guys forgotten? Some MPs are paid for their exposure to the public. They're paid. Some corporations will lobby. And what lobbying means is they will pay certain individuals in government for access to them and access to laws, access to change things. Because don't forget, within government, you have the House of Commons and you have the House of Lords. The House of Lords are the people that make the law in the UK. They wear those wigs and they wear those robes, right? Alan Sugar's one of them. You see how wealthy he is. What people have to remember is a lot of these people, they don't care about the normal people on the ground. They just make the laws regardless. And after Brexit, they'll have even more power. The only people that will have more power than them is the Supreme Court. They will have a lot of power to change a lot of laws. So as the black community, we need to get as many of our people as we can into the House of Lords. And how do you become a Lord? Well, one good way to become a Lord is to be wealthy. I think you'll have to check Google on this, but I do believe we only have 2 black people in the House of Lords. And they both got in because they did contributions towards music and towards culture. No offense to those that do music and culture, but that's not enough to move the economy, I'm afraid. So we need people that are big business leaders to come through. We need to lift our community, raise the big business leaders to come through, sit on the House of Lords and change the laws in our favour. That's how you raise our standards. That's what we need to be looking to do as the black community. And they do care, but only for those that benefit and enrich them.
This is serious, guys.
Yeah.
This is real serious. Like, when we sit down and talk about this, because I don't think I've really had a conversation about this. I just kind of brushed it off, my shoulder thing. Oh yeah, Brexit's coming, da da da. But this is serious, and I think this is something that all communities need to talk about. People of different faiths, different countries, different sexualities, whatever. This is something that we all need to come together and talk about. I was just thinking about a couple of months ago, there was that terrorist attack in New Zealand where this white guy killed all those poor Muslim people. And not too long after that event happened, the new, Prime Minister of New Zealand, she changed the law just like that. Right. Just like that. And here we are sitting in England with our government taking their sweet ass time with whatever they're doing. I think we need to have a government that is honest, a government that can be, honest and admit to what they've done wrong, their shortcomings, and actually bring to the table what is going on. Because I'll be honest, we're not stupid. We are just ignorant to what is going on. And not unless they bring the stuff that's actually going on into the light, of course we're not gonna know what's going on. So this is a situation where we need to bring this situation into the light, especially the government. They need to bring this to the light so we can all get together as a community, as families, as individuals, and think, okay, what can I do to change the community? What can I do to help this country? What can I do to be involved with Parliament? So, guys, I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. Say one more thing. Go on.
This is another off-topic thing. Earlier I said James Cameron. I meant Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott made the Moses film. Yeah, not James Cameron. James Cameron made Avatar. Great film.
Very nice. Oh, thank you, guys.
I'm sure to clear that up.
Oh, okay.
Watch and be like,
Anyway, guys, thank you for your time. I want to thank the people that have subscribed to our channel. I just want to show my appreciation to you guys. Thank you very much. And please, guys, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell an uncle to tell an auntie to tell a next door neighbor to tell a friend to tell an enemy to tell whoever about our channel. And please, guys, leave comments down below and don't forget to like. Thank you. Bye.